People in scarcity think if someone's profitable or someone makes a lot of money, where do they think that came from? It's been taken. It's evidence of deception. It's evidence of coercion. It's evidence of someone else taking too much of the pie. But the reality is, all wealth is built through exchange. See, if I give you $1, that's not the end of that dollar. You could take and use that dollar again, right? And then whoever you give the dollar to, they get to use it again. So the more time that circulates out there through goods, services, and experiences, the more wealth that's built, not the less. Budgeting actually creates a scarcity mindset. And you have to use all this mental energy and anguish and time to go out there and budget. And then you set up different envelopes or jars and you put different amounts of money in there. And if there's not enough money, then I guess you just don't get to do something that month. But that actually limits someone. And scarcity is the greatest destroyer of wealth that's out there. No amount of luck, no amount of saving, no discipline, no rate of return, no financial advisor will ever save you if you're in the scarcity mindset, because the scarcity mindset propagates what I call the consumer condition. And the consumer condition is where people look to take more from the world than they give. And that always leads to financial disaster. And no matter how much money they have, they always feel like they're going to lose it, and they never truly enjoy it. So the first thing is you are your asset. You're the greatest asset. It's not a stock. It's not a bond. It's not a piece of real estate. It's your mindset, and it's your ability to create value. And if you want to make more money, you're in the right place because you're learning how to create more value out there in the world. And the more value you create, the more dollars you make. So if you want to make money, what do you got to do? Create value. How do you create more value? That's the question I want you to continually ask yourself. You do it through serving people, through impacting people, through solving problems. And as you serve others, there's this awesome thing called the internet that you get a leverage that means that it's so much more reach than we had in the past, right? So you're in this unique time, this unique opportunity, and you don't have to budget anymore. On the other hand, different than scarcity is abundance, which I call the producer paradigm. And the producer paradigm is where you look to create more value in the world than you take from it, right? That's where wealth comes from. See, people in scarcity think if someone's profitable or someone makes a lot of money, where do they think that came from? It's been taken. It's evidence of deception. It's evidence of coercion. It's evidence of someone else taking too much of the pie. But the reality is, all wealth is built through exchange. See, if I give you $1, that's not the end of that dollar. You could take and use that dollar again, right? And then whoever you give the dollar to, they get to use it again. So the more time that circulates out there through goods, services, and experiences, the more wealth that's built, not the less. See, the government just can't print money and expect there to be more wealth because there has to be exchange behind that. So you're out there to help facilitate exchange, get things in people's hands that they value. I looked at that list that Jason put up there, right? That gave them confidence, that gave them assurance, that solved the problem for them, all those kinds of things. So that's the real key to wealth. And yet if we go to most of personal finance, it's directly in opposition to that. Isn't it usually about cutting back, saving, sacrificing, delaying, deferring, so that one day, someday, you can finally live the good life? Anyone ever been sold that bill of goods before? That sucks, right? I'm just going to keep using that word. Budgeting sucks. That philosophy sucks. See, when I started my first business, Garrett Gunderson's Car Care, and I went to college, I wanted to go into business. I was in the financial services, and by the time I was a senior in college, I was making more than any of my professors, and I was really getting good at what I do. I wasn't selling the mutual funds and the life insurance stuff. I was helping people save tax because 93% of business owners overpay on tax. I was helping people save on interest, because pretty much anyone with a loan that didn't have the right credit score and didn't have the right cash flow report is paying too much in interest, which is 80% of people. And all interest is negotiable. That's money where you can save. Or people overpaying on insurance, and not because they chose the Geico thing over the caveman or whatever those nonsense commercials are, but simply it's not structured properly. Or hidden fees and commissions and investments. And what I did is I decided to do all the dirty work in finance early on, which no one's paid a commission for the things I'm talking about. Most people in finance, they deal with what they get paid on, which is commissionable products, which is almost always retirement planning. But what if your retirement plan was to retire in your business, not from business? What I mean by retiring in your business is having a business that would be sustainable even if you didn't show up every single day or every single week. But then if inflation was high, you would change your prices. If taxes went up, as a business, that's one of the best tax shelters you could possibly have, right? Or if interest rates are really low with investments, you're earning your money from your business, but you're not a slave to your business. The best way to retire is retire from the things that you hate doing and delegate it to the sick people who love that stuff. When I wrote Killing Sacred Cows, the New York Post did this review on it, and they said, yeah, Gunderson's advice is okay, but it doesn't hold up in this one area that if everyone did what they love to do, who would be a garbage man or who would be in charge of the sewers? I was like, that's kind of a valid point, right? I'm like, kids would. That's why we have kids, right? So that we don't have to do those jobs. But then in Brigham City, Utah, I met this guy, right? His name's Tom. And Tom was in charge of a sewage plant treatment place. And he loved shit. I don't know what to say. That's just like, I mean, that's like, he was fascinated by it. I'm like, that is a really crappy job, man. But I love that you love it, right? So there's this divinity diversity. There's people that love different things. There's people with different abilities. If we all had the same ambition for the exact same things, we wouldn't exchange with one another. We just do everything on our own. So retire from the things you hate and build a life that you love by building the right business. But this is the biggest opportunity I think everyone in this room has. You have a chance to change your financial future and change the financial destiny of any of your heirs moving forward. Because you've chosen to own a business, and if you handle your finances right, which far too many people don't, they hand their money over to someone who sounds smart, and they hope that it's gonna work out. That never changes anyone's financial future. But when I sat down with my grandfather at the age of 22, his sister was dying, and they were worried about the government taking all the money because she was that person, like she was my poster child for scarcity. And I didn't get invited to the funeral because apparently when you write bad things about people in books in your family, you're not supposed to do that. I didn't know. I didn't think she would pay for the book, first of all, because she's in scarcity, but apparently someone gave it to her out of pride or something. But she actually put money in coffee cans, Folgers coffee cans, and put them in the cellar. And then they buried some of them in the backyard. She applied for welfare, and when she applied, they found that she had $500,000 in her bank account. Now, that was I don't think she ever spent $1 on anything other than toilet paper. Her entire garage was like stocked with toilet paper in case there was the end of the world. She was gonna make sure she had a clean butt, I guess. I don't know. Maybe she talked to that sewage treatment guy, Tom, and they had some collaboration going on. I'm not quite sure. But see, scarcity really kind of destroyed how she viewed the world. And so they had all this money set aside, never enjoying it, never living wealthy along the way. But Benjamin Franklin said something I think is worth writing down. Wealth isn't just the man that has it, but the man that lives it. You don't get a second chance to live a first-class lifestyle. And if you're your asset, why not take care of yourself that you enjoy life along the way? One of the attributes of the entrepreneur, and I'm guilty of this. I remember coming home one day telling my wife, I'm like, hey, we hit the New York Times and we hit the Inc. 500 this week. And she's like, well, we should celebrate. I'm like, no, I got a lot going on this week. It's really busy. She's like, really? We're not going to celebrate like a little bit? But isn't that like the entrepreneurs? Like we're always on to the next thing. And that's like, you got to enjoy the experiences along the way. Take some time off. Don't wear yourself down because you end up having diminishing returns as an individual. You don't produce as much when you're constantly, engaged in something in business all the time. There was a leader that once said, hey, the bigger the vision you have, the more you should travel, right? Because you got to kind of take care of yourself and do things that way. There's far too many people that were going to try to tell you it's a waste of money to do this or a waste of money to do that based upon their perspective. You should never feel guilt again about paying cash for anything that you really enjoy in life that someone else doesn't value. If you like first class, go for it. You like great clothes, you like great food, you like great wine. Don't let someone else judge that for you. That's their perspective. Embrace it. And I'm going to give you a system, which is called a Living Wealthy account, which the only rule of setting up this account is that you blow the money on whatever you want without any guilt. That's missing from budgeting, isn't it? Yeah, no, I'm not surprised you clapped at that one, right? You're like, yes, tell us, financial guys, spend more money on myself. I love it. This guy's awesome. All right, so let's talk cash flow banking. First thing, everyone, please do this. I beg of you. I want 100,000 people to do this by 2020. You set up a wealth capture account and you just go to your existing bank and set up a separate account from your existing checking or business account. I don't care whether it's a checking, savings, or money market. The interest that you earn on it is insignificant. The thing that it's separate from your other finances is the important aspect. A wealth capture account, this is the opposite of budgeting, called cash flow banking. And what the first rule is, you pay yourself first. Is that hard sometimes because you need inventory? Or is that hard sometimes because there's just a million expenses that are coming up in your life, right? If you don't pay yourself first, Parkinson's law sets in. Parkinson's law is that if you have an increase in income, within 3 to 6 months, your expenses will rise to meet or exceed that increase. Have you met someone that makes more money now and is in worse financial shape than they've ever been? Not you, obviously, like a neighbor or something, right? But that's what happens because of Parkinson's law. So you set up a separate account. I call it a wealth capture account. You can call it a sweep account. But every time you go to make a personal deposit, to pay yourself personally, you're going to pay money to that account first. And I'm going to recommend that you get up to 18%. Now, if you can't do that now, I understand. I'm going to show you where to find the money so it's not all on you. Start with 1%. Just start building the habit. It will make a huge difference. And I'll tell you, it's the only thing that I would say feels a little bit mystical or magical. But if you pay yourself first, you're going to be amazed how you find the money to make life work. If you'll just try that on. I'm not asking you to fully believe me or completely trust me on that. Just try it on and see what happens. This is especially going to be important when times are good, because has anyone in the room ever spent optimism? Like, I just had the most killer month, sold so much stuff on Amazon. It's never going to end. Next month is going to be even better. We're getting the boat. I love it. And then you're like, what? Chinese New Year? What is that? Like, you know. They do have slingshots up here, so I would be careful on the egg segment. Just warning you. Anybody want a water? So you set up that separate account. That's your wealth capture account. When you get up to 18% in that account, then you set up a second account called your living wealthy account. And you take 3% of that 15% and you move it over of that 18%. So you leave 15% in the account, 3% moves over to your living wealthy account, and you just go ahead and enjoy that money with one warning. A luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity. We went to Europe in May, and I decided, I've always been a little bit chintzy on the flying. We're like, okay, we're economy comfort to Europe, and we went with the lay-down flat beds. And my wife looked at me with her champagne in hand and was like, we going this way next year to Europe, right? I guess so, yeah. Better get that living wealthy account going. But just spend that money guilt-free once it hits there, because if you don't, then what, you're earning, you're pushing, you're working, but you're not rewarding yourself. And that just becomes, that's like doing a diet where a 0-calorie diet. Eventually you're like, I'm going to eat everything in my room right here that is $27 per gummy bear, right? Like, that just doesn't work. So don't restrict things from your life from too long. And the other thing is, and this is worth writing down, no one shrinks their way to wealth. No one shrinks their way to wealth. It's all about production and value creation. So set up automation. That's the first part of cash flow banking. And then once the money starts building up in this wealth capture account, I want you to automate your savings, but don't automate your investing. Automated investing is a horrible idea. I just automatically put money in this investment every month, no matter what it does. And then on average, I'll buy high and low, just depending. No, don't automate investing. Automate your savings. Be deliberate with your investing. Now, that savings account, you might turn that into a brokerage account. And if you get a brokerage account, you get a line of credit against it. If you get a line of credit against it, you now have access to buy inventory, right? Or you could set it up in a overfunded life insurance policy that has cash value, and you can pull that cash value out anytime you want and use that for inventory. But I want you to start building liquidity, because every business that ends up going out of business, even though they have a decent model in business, is because they didn't have enough liquidity. Liquidity is underemphasized in the world of finance because no one gets paid on you being liquid. And what I mean by liquid is just enough money in this wealth capture account, all right? Then you start transferring. When you start getting that built up, you can transfer it into a wealth creation account, which would be something that has a line of credit against it, so you can start putting it to use. Have at least 6 months of your expenses built up in your wealth capture account before you start allocating it to other things.
Want to master your money? Want to figure out the things that you could do to improve your finances? Click here and check out more videos like this on Money Matters.